Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Kelvin here. Should you invest in Bitcoin? Note that I'm talking about investing and not trading. In other words, will Bitcoin give us a good return on our money in the long term? But before we talk about that, here's a quick recap on the history of money. We first started with bartering. People would trade chickens for veggies and fruits. However, there were many problems with it. We would have to carry our chicken around all the time, or the other guy would want a fish instead. So that led to the use of gold. Gold was chosen because it was beautiful and was rare enough to be precious. This continued on for a while until the Great Depression, when President Roosevelt shifted away from gold to paper currency in order to stimulate the economy. US finally abandoned the gold standard in the 1970s, ending the rule of gold of a few thousand years. But the problem with paper money is that it is very easily manipulated. Governments could print as much money as they want. Then came along PayPal with the original goal of creating a digital currency that would not be controlled by any banks or governments. However, as we might have guessed, governments did not like this plan and quickly shut down their plans. Then in 2008, a guy by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto invented the Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has lots of benefits. It is extremely secure, can't be counterfeited, and it succeeded the spirit of PayPal in creating a decentralized currency, meaning that its value and supply can't be controlled by any banks. However, unlike stocks which has intrinsic value, Bitcoin or any other currency for that matter does not have an intrinsic value. You see, you can value a stock by its company's financials, like assets, debts, future earnings, or cash flow. That's why you can see some stocks reaching a few $1,000s and some other stocks are just a few cents. So then, how is the value of Bitcoin determined? A Bitcoin does not have intrinsic value, but rather extrinsic value, meaning that it draws value based on how valuable someone thinks Bitcoin is. In other words, the value of Bitcoin is determined by the most basic idea of economics, supply and demand. Because Bitcoin have a limited supply and people accept it as a form of payment, this gives value to Bitcoin. In fact, this is the same as any other currency like the US dollar. It has value because the bank accepts it. So the $1,000,000 question on everyone's mind is, how much will Bitcoin worth in the future? And whether did you tap the like button to help support the channel? Because if you know that the price of Bitcoin will go up, you could then invest in it and potentially become a millionaire. Or on the other hand, if you know that the price of Bitcoin will collapse, you could just stay far away from it. There's no clear answer to this, so let's first analyze what will drive up the price of Bitcoins. The first factor, mainstream acceptance. In 2012, the price of Bitcoin was just $25. If we ignore all the crazy fluctuations, we will see that there's a very clear trend. The price of Bitcoin has only gone up. This is because Bitcoin are gaining mainstream acceptance as people are beginning to understand that Bitcoin has a value as a currency. More and more businesses like Starbucks, Nordstrom and Whole Foods have started to accept Bitcoin as a payment. 2020 Q1, when Square reported their earnings. By the way, Square is just an e-payment system, just like WeChat Pay in China or GrabPay in Singapore. Anyway, when Square reported their earnings in Q1, it was found out that more and more people have started to pay using Bitcoin. All these are strong evidence that more and more people are accepting Bitcoin, and you can expect that this trend will continue going up in the future. The second factor, global uncertainty. The number one thing that all investors hate is uncertainty and not buying Tesla at its all-time lows in March 2020. With all the uncertainties like tariffs, oil price war, political instability, recession that's going on, many investors will want to shift their money into other asset classes like gold, bonds, and yes, even Bitcoin. The reason Bitcoin was chosen was because it can hedge against inflation. This is because when US unlocked the unlimited cash cheat code to stop the economy from bleeding, they have weakened the US dollar, which causes the US dollar to drop against Bitcoin, which has a finite supply. Even though Bitcoin is not like the traditional safe haven where it fluctuates very little, but instead move up and down 10 to 20% every day, Bitcoin have held up very well against the market despite all the market uncertainty. Compare that to commodity like oil, where its price can be influenced by oversupply or reducing demand. Bitcoin does not have to deal with political interference or ever-changing supply, making it a less vulnerable investment in times of turmoil. So it's safe to say that the more uncertain the market is, the more people are going to move their money into Bitcoin, causing the price of Bitcoin to go up. And speaking of going up, the third reason on why the price of Bitcoin will go up is because of fear of missing out. There's an old saying on Wall Street: the market is driven by just two emotions, fear and greed. The internet boom in the late 1990s is a perfect example, where investors would jump at every opportunity to buy into any stock that has a .com in it. This surge of greed was what led to rapid rise in the technology stock prices by over 5 times in just 5 years. In 2000, when the bubble burst, fear took over and everyone ran for their lives. Same goes for Bitcoin. In 2017, people were seeing the price going up and they wanted a piece of it at whatever price possible. And that caused the price to go up, which led to more people buying in, causing the price to go from under 1,000 all the way to 20,000. Even though the price has crashed back down, right now it has risen significantly since the 2017 crash. That's because people believe that Bitcoin has a place in the future and they do not want to miss out on potential gains. Some people like Virgin Galactic CEO have even recommended that investors should hold 1% of Bitcoin in their portfolio. The argument is that Bitcoin has a limited risk, meaning that you could only lose 100% of your investments in Bitcoin. However, on the other hand, Bitcoin has unlimited upside, meaning that over the long term, you could theoretically, possibly, maybe, perhaps see Bitcoin going up by over 1000% or even 50,000% in the future. Not that I'm saying it will, I'm just saying it has this possibility. By the way, this is called an asymmetric risk, where the potential to gain is so much higher than the potential to lose. So that's what's going on in the minds of a Bitcoin investor. If I invest $1,000 in it, I will at most lose $1,000. Will my life change? Not really. At most, I won't be able to buy the latest Flash bit. However, if it goes up, and I mean way up, I stand to gain so much more from this $1,000. And this whole thinking, paired with FOMO, will drive up the price of Bitcoin. So, those were the 3 reasons on why Bitcoin could go up. But let's play the devil's advocate and discuss why Bitcoin could fall instead. The first reason, countries banning Bitcoin. While Bitcoin is accepted in many parts of the world, some countries outright ban the use of Bitcoin. It's like you discussing with your friend about plans to stay over at his house, and you have to ask your dad for permission. Hey dad, can I stay over at Xiao Ming's house? No. But dad, I said no. If you go, you will dishonor your family. Countries will ban Bitcoin because they perceive Bitcoin as a threat to their monetary system. And Bitcoin enables criminal activities like drug trafficking, money laundering, and prostitution. Governments like to control the currency, and they do it through the central bank. They also like to know where is the money, who has it, and where it's going at all times. But the untraceable nature of Bitcoin makes it very hard to do so, and governments would rather ban it instead of trying to regulate it. Reason number 2, decrease in popularity. As mentioned earlier, the price of Bitcoin is supported by supply and demand. And if there are lesser demand for Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin will fall. Right now, Bitcoin is still the most popular cryptocurrency out there. For most of the users, Bitcoin is just a tool for speculation and investment. For others, it is to hide their criminal activities. In 2017, a research done by University of Sydney found that 44% of Bitcoin transactions were using Bitcoin for illegal activities. Because Bitcoin provides pseudo-anonymity, meaning that it is very hard to trace who the sender or receiver is. The research also suggests that these activities, which makes up almost half of Bitcoin transactions, were actually driving up the price of Bitcoins. However, Bitcoin is not fully anonymous. If these users who are using Bitcoin for illegal activities were to abandon Bitcoin for other cryptocurrency which provides full anonymity like Monero, the value of Bitcoin would likely fall, or rather it will fall temporarily while it gains mainstream acceptance over time. Reason number 3, Bitcoin is hackable. As cryptocurrency is a peer-to-peer blockchain system, meaning that its miners keep track and reuse its ledgers at all times, it is thought to be unhackable until it got hacked. Kind of reminds you of Titanic, a ship that is unsinkable that sinks on her first journey. Cryptocurrency can be hacked by something called 51% attack, meaning that hackers control more than 50% of the miner's network, which allows hackers to manipulate the transactions and double spend coins. However, this attack was thought to be impossible because you will need a huge computing power to do such an attack. But hackers proved everyone wrong when they successfully hacked Ethereum in 2019. If they can do it once, you can bet that they will do this again in the future. And sure enough, the attacks have increased. The reason anyone would use Bitcoin at all is because they feel that Bitcoin is a currency that can be trusted. If somehow there's a more secure cryptocurrency out there, people would just abandon Bitcoin and migrate over, causing Bitcoin to crash and burn. Not literally, Bitcoin is digital, it can't burn, but you get my point. Those were the reasons why Bitcoin could go up and why it could go down. But I guess you want to know what me, a random YouTuber who is still learning how to invest, thinks. Will I invest in Bitcoin? Personally, I'm really interested to buy a small amount of Bitcoin and hold, like $1,000, for the same reasons as most Bitcoin investors out there, which is there's a very huge potential upside to Bitcoin. At the very most, I will lose that $1,000, which, to be frank, will make me very sad. On the other hand, if the price of Bitcoin were to skyrocket, I would be glad that I'm in it. Hashtag FOMO. But that's just me. Definitely not everyone can afford to lose $1,000, and there are better, more guaranteed ways to increase the return on your $1,000, like investing in S&P 500, investing in ETF, or even Tesla. No one knows where Bitcoin will go in the future, and anyone who claims that they do is just bluffing. So always do your research first before investing in anything, especially in speculative stuff like Bitcoin. That's all for today. Let me know down in the comments below. What are your thoughts? Will you invest in Bitcoin? Like, share, and subscribe as I will be posting new videos every Monday. See ya!